Edgar Allan Poe, the great American author, is often referred to as the godfather of mystery, detective fiction, science fiction, and such similar genres. Edgar was the pioneer of the short story form in American literature. Readers used to be fascinated with his work because his poems and short stories were usually full of morbidity and had the element of the macabre in them. The motivation theory on which Arthur Conan Doyle based his stories was almost absent in Poe's fiction. For instance, his most famous short story, The Tell-Tale Heart, does not underline any specific motivation for murder, nor does it bring out any relationship between the narrator or the victim. The life and death of Edgar Allan Poe was almost as strange and puzzling as the characters he created in his fiction. Edgar Allan Poe was no stranger to struggles, loss, and grief. When just a toddler, his father abandoned him along with his two siblings. When he turned 2, he lost his mother also due to tuberculosis. With no takers for the little Poe, he was sent to live with a foster family, the Allans. They never adopted him formally, but they kept him for quite some time. Edgar Allan Poe got very close to his foster mother, but when he turned 11, Frances Allan died. This resulted in Edgar having a strained relationship with his foster father, John Allan. The latter had different plans for the young Edgar, but being the rebel that he was, Edgar went his way. When John Allan died, he left Poe out of his will. Edgar never hesitated in breaking societal norms and literary conventions. He had very little belief in the formal education system and preferred spending his time reading different literatures all over the world rather than attending school. This, of course, created a hostile atmosphere between him and his teacher and other students. At the age of 14, Edgar Poe fell in love with a woman twice his age. She was a friend's mother. It is believed that this woman encouraged Edgar Allan Poe to write. But when she died suddenly one day, young Poe went into a deep depression and never really got over her death. Years later, he penned a eulogy for her called To Helen. Edgar Allan Poe's journey of life was full of losses. His 2 mothers, his first wife, his childhood crush, and his foster father. This scarred him throughout his lifetime. But it is quite mysterious and strange to note that Edgar Allan Poe married his young cousin, just 13 years of age, when he was himself 27. Virginia Eliza Clem was Poe's first cousin. Marriages between first cousins was legal then. But to marry off someone as young as just 13 was appalling to say the least. Naturally, therefore, Virginia's mother disapproved of the marriage. The couple eloped in September 1835 and got married. Of course, the marriage certificate claimed the age of Virginia as 21, but that was a blatant lie. One wonders what could have prompted Poe to marry someone so young. A few years later, Edgar befriended a married poetess named Frances Sargent Osgood. Their relationship was an open secret. But strangely enough, Edgar's wife Virginia herself encouraged their relationship. She even invited Osgood to visit them on several occasions. Edgar is rumored to have promised Osgood to give up the use of stimulants for her, something which he didn't do at all ever. Edgar Allan Poe's personality and literature attracted many women to him. One of them was Elizabeth Elliot. In a strange turn of events, Elliot resented Poe's relationship with Osgood, instead with his wife Virginia. She tried her best to dissuade Edgar from being friends with Osgood. But for once, even Edgar put his foot down and refused Elliot's attentions. Eventually, Osgood moved on, as did Elliot. But this entire dilemma and triangle perturbed Virginia, and it is said that on her deathbed, she expressed a doubt that Elliot had poisoned her. Edgar Allan Poe was an absolute alcoholic. He took to drinking heavily from his college days and then never stopped. It is believed that his alcoholism played a major role in his death at just 40. Though he made several attempts to sober up, yet it was to alcohol that he finally returned. Like many of his fictional characters who were opium users, it is believed that Edgar Allan Poe was also an opium addict. Poe's death, just like most of his plots in his stories, remains shrouded in mystery. To this day, no one knows how he died. Just 40, Edgar Allan Poe was found in a delirious condition on the streets of Baltimore with a newspaper covering his face. There have been innumerable theories doing rounds pointing at the reason of his sudden demise: murder, suicide, a bad drug trip, poisoning by carbon monoxide, epilepsy, an overdose of alcohol consumption, and some have even suggested rabies. It is ironical, to say the least, that the world's greatest mystery writer died in such mysterious circumstances.